Do you have a number of participants tonight, Pam, as you get organized?
So we are, Art is the only one I don't know about now.
Okay, I haven't heard from Art, so I presume he's going to be on board.
Yep.
I'm going to try to get him on his cell.
Okay. I'll mute you just for now.
Okay. Pam, he's just talk with him. He's trying to get on.
Okay.
Anybody hear from Jerry?
Yeah, Jerry has emailed in and said he wouldn't be available. So we got Craig and Jerry that wouldn't be
Yep.
here. So we'll be seating Will and John again, who have been seated for the entire hearing.
Exactly.
Nice string of weather we've had. Not that we don't need water. Jeez.
I'm protesting turning the heat on this month.
Yeah, right. It's just, they gotta hesitate to have to go through that, John. God, we've been lucky. We've been, it's the complete opposite of that, but all of a sudden, I guess the switch will be thrown. You see, even in Europe, they had a real cold spell and snow earlier than they usually do. So it's not just here in the States. Crazy systems with weather.
The trees seem to be turning faster.
Well, you know, what I've read is about this, the dryness is pushing things earlier. I went down to see Craig Sandon at UConn this morning, and he's on an upper level of one of the towers there. And it looks, his room looked out toward the city of Hartford, but there's an island of maples that are just absolutely beautiful. So it's much earlier. I mean, I can remember going Columbus Day and we're not having any color. And then you get up into the Vermont and, you know, New England upper areas and they start to get colors at Columbus, but we're way ahead of that. So I don't know. I don't know what does it, but. I don't know what's going on with Art, but it's I've got 7 after 7. I think we'll start the meeting and pick him up when he comes in. So if you can get whatever has to be going on, Pam.
Yep. Oh, you're good.
All right. So we'll call the meeting to order. It's the 28th of September. Again, another Zoom meeting. We've got the roll call. The only people that are missing, well, 3 people. Craig is still at UConn, so he's missing, excused. Jerry contacted us. He's absent, excused. And Art's trying to get connected, so we'll get him on board when we can.
Yeah, he's coming now.
Okay, good, perfect. We'll wait for him to come up.
reason.
There you go, Art. You can
Yeah,
hear us now,
good.
right?
Gotcha, Art.
Nope.
Okay, so I just opened the meeting, Art. We've got everybody on board. Craig is back at UConn and Farmington, and Jerry had called in that or emailed in that he wouldn't be available. So we've got two absent excused, and I'm seating Will again and John, who've been seated for the entire public hearing on 20-23. So do we have anybody that's logged in for public comment, Pam?
I'm not sure. We might.
Maybe for the public hearing?
Yeah, I mean, we have several folks, but most of them are staff or building committee members or from.
I
from the
can't hear
design.
anything.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you hear me, Art?
See if your icon, your speaker icon is X on the bottom. It might be.
How's that?
There you go.
I got it.
You got it? Okay, Art. All right, so I just went through the roll call, Art, and we don't have anybody for public comment, but it sounds like we will have participation during the public hearing.
Right.
Does anybody on the commission have anything that they need to address on the agenda review?
No.
No,
Okay. All right, so if we could have a motion to reopen the public hearing, continue the public hearing of 2023 15 Hinsdale Avenue, Winchester Public School, Town of Winchester. The proposal is the Hinsdale School renovation and new construction, including restoration and daylighting of the Gilbert Home Brook that flows in culvert under a portion of the school.
so move.
Okay, Peter, in a second, do we have that?
I got it.
Okay, Art, thank you. All in favor? You raise your
Aye.
hand. Okay, good. We're all set. Why don't we resume? And Pam, why don't you, before we get into any additional information from the applicant, what's taken place from ZBA and the Wetlands Commissions?
I believe this is the last stop on the permitting tour. Zoning Board of Appeals granted their variance on September 22nd. That was for the landscape buffer. You'll recall that they needed that in order for the project to go forward. The Inland Wetlands Commission also granted their approval and on a special meeting of September 23rd. And they've already been before the Architecture Review Committee some time ago. So this is actually the last stop.
The last, okay. Do we have any other comments from staff? Since the last meeting?
There was some communication that went back and forth between the fire marshal and Fire Chief Peter Marchand. Maybe Peter can report on that. You know, I think that might be brought up later with regard to the generator.
All right. Okay. So if nothing else with regards to that, is the applicant on board tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good night. Good evening. How are you?
Great.
We did receive your the decibel information, but why don't you go through whatever additional information you have, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will start for the team. Again, it's Donald Smith Jr., professional engineer with an office at 56 Greenwood Circle in Seymour. Here tonight representing the applicant, being Winchester Public Schools and the town of Winchester. I believe there's a few members of our building committee as well as town hall staff that are on the Zoom call tonight.
Great.
As Pam indicated, we did receive our ZBA and inland wetlands approvals. The architects are including the rooftop screening of the mechanical units into the final plans. And I will let the architect speak to that. Your Department of Public Works is in the process of inspecting the storm drainage lines on the site.
Okay.
They didn't quite get to it yet. I think they might have started today, but did not finish. but they are working on it, and anything that they find that needs to be addressed or included as part of this project would be or will be included. And we will prepare a memo back to the commission with the results of DPW's findings and whether anything was required to be done or not, and how that was included.
Okay.
The one thing I think that we had skipped over last month, we talked generally about it and reviewed that the dumpster had been relocated farther away from the building. But I had also submitted a memorandum on the actual enclosure. I recall at our first hearing, you had indicated the town standard was black vinyl fencing and the black metal slats in the fencing as well. And I provided a detail. Our standard detail is a green vinyl coated fence with what they call hedge link screening. And it almost looks, gives it an appearance of an artificial Christmas tree or an evergreen hedge. And with the fence being the green vinyl coated, it all pretty much blends in together and provides a very opaque surface so that you cannot really see through it. You know, the conventional chain link fence with the slats in it, you can, you know, see through it depending on how you're looking at it. I don't know if you hadn't wanted me to review that memo, but you know, that would be a question or clarification of that detail. And lastly, the landscape architect did prepare some maintenance guidelines for the landscape materials on site. But unfortunately, I'm not sure that got submitted yet. But the landscape architect can certainly, he's on the call with us tonight. And if you'd like, he can kind of review that, those maintenance requirements. But it was, you know, basic, you know, kind of standard landscape practices.
You have just a visual of that enclosure?
I'll need to bring that up. I don't have that right on my desktop right this moment. Give me a few minutes while you speak with the architect or the landscape architect, and I will bring up that memorandum for you.
Okay, fine. Then let's go to the architect if we could.
Good evening, everyone. Paul Jorgensen with Silver Petroselli. As Don said, we are incorporating the roof screens into the project as we had discussed previously in the images that we showed. One of the questions that raised was the decibel levels of the equipment itself. And we went back subsequently to the mechanical engineer on our team and also to the equipment manufacturer. And we basically ran the numbers, and I submitted a packet of approximately 7 or 8 pages at the end of last week for the commission to review. Essentially, we ran all of the major rooftop units. We have 4 units total, 3 larger ones, a small one. We also have a makeup air unit, smaller one over the kitchen, and an exhaust fan over the kitchen. So those 6 pieces of equipment, we went back to the manufacturers, and what we did is we gave them the distance from the rooftop equipment to the edge of the roof and then also to the property line for each of the pieces of equipment. So we were able to determine the decibel level at the property line for each of the pieces of equipment. And what we found, and I can go through the list with you, RTU number 1, which is by the addition, has a decibel level of 60, which is, and it's a distance of 74 feet from the property line. So 60 is just a little bit more than a social conversation in terms of the loudness of that unit at the property line. 60 is actually quite low. The next unit is, and I'm going to that on my screen, RTU number 2 is 53 feet, I'm sorry, 53 feet away from the property line. And at the property line, it has a decibel level of 58. And when I say decibel level, it's a combined number between the exhaust of the unit and the intake of the unit. They measure both, and then they give a combined score or a combined level between the two. So that's decibel level of 58. The next one is RTU number 3, which is actually the closest to the property line. It's 47 feet away from the property line, and the decibel level is 62 at the property line. The next one is RTU number 4, which is over by Hinsdale Avenue, the closest to the property line. It's 80 feet from the property line and has a decibel level of 45, which is quite low. And then the two pieces of equipment over at the kitchen, the makeup air unit is quite far from the property lines. It's the nearest property line is over 130 feet away, has a decibel level of 29 at the property line. And then the last piece of equipment was an exhaust fan, which has a decibel level of 36. And that piece of equipment is almost 125 feet away from the property line. So we did our homework on all of the units and think that we'll certainly, we think we meet, we're a considerate neighbor at the property line.
And those are obviously don't run 100% of the time. They're
No, they do not.
intermittent. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. That's important. We've had situations where we haven't asked that question before, and it's actually come back to haunt us because some of the numbers have been pretty extreme in a quiet area in the rural. Now, this is good information. Any, while we're on that topic, commissioners, do we have any questions from anybody on it?
I think those numbers sound very reasonable and good. They should be good for the neighbors.
Good. You brought it, you raised the subject, Peter, and it sounds like they're reasonable. Anybody else on the commission have any questions with regards to the decibel levels on the RTUs?
No.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much for doing the homework on it. It helps
You're
us
welcome.
make a decision. You have something on the shielding of the RTUs? Besides the-
Only what we showed the last meeting, which was
Yeah.
the rendering of the louvers. That is what we're designing right now. And it's in our design department, and we're adding these to our documents as we speak.
Okay, so that's, and I think we had a consensus that, you know, depending on how the numbers, as long as we've got screening, that's what we're looking for. So if you need to use something other than those panels, I think, and the commission, if please chime in if I'm incorrectly repeating it. You know, we want flexibility to provide you the opportunity to do what you need to do with the budget, but we definitely need to have screening there. So thank you for taking that into consideration. Okay, thank you. Good. The landscape
Yes,
portion of
good
this, is
evening,
that
Commissioners. I'm Stephen Wing, landscape architect,
Steve?
an office at 26 Crown Street in Milford. And I prepared a one-page set of recommendations dated the 17th of September. And they're in 3 categories: lawn care, trees and shrubs, and landscape areas other than lawns. So altogether, they're about 20 items. It's not a lot of detail. I can go through them, or I'll maybe hit the ones that sort of go beyond what everybody would expect.
Well, Steve, let me interrupt you. I think the important part of it is, in my experience through probably 50 years of development, is the important part is to have a document that you give to the owner so that they have something to go with rather than just a nice list of plants. And because I know later on, I'm going to suggest to the commission that we do a landscape maintenance bond requirement as a condition of the approval. So this will give them guidance with regards to, taking care of the plants, because it's a nice list, and you've really come up with some nice recommendations, and especially last meeting, the changes you made relative to interacting with the lighting systems that were projected. So those are good. But unless the commission needs to hear exactly how it's going to be maintained, I don't think we need to do that. Any requirements for that, commissioners?
I'm good.
Okay. Al or Will,
I'm good.
you're good? Okay, all right. How about John and Art?
Yeah, I'm just reading through the maintenance list.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just shared that plan, those maintenance requirements, if you just wanted to quickly
Okay.
breeze
Yeah, I see
through
that.
them.
Yep, thank you. Yep, I mean, I don't have any expertise in it. It's just nice to have something specific for the owner. Okay, good. But while we're talking about landscaping, Peter, you had raised some things at the last meeting you had a question with regards to the generator, which comes back to the engineering part of it. One of the things that I wonder, because you came up with the generator being diesel powered, is there a reason why you couldn't use something that's natural gas, so you don't have to have a fuel tank there?
Paul,
Yeah.
that was
The-
from the mechanical department at Silva Petroselli.
Okay,
Correct. That was, well, it's not actually mechanical. It's more of an electrical question because they specify the type of generator. And I think it's mostly based on the economy of it. The most economical units, to my understanding, are the diesel units
diesel.
as a fuel source. Could it be done with natural gas? Absolutely. I mean, we see them. I believe that the cost, you're looking at a fairly good increase, a significant increase in cost to go to that system
Okay, all right.
with
Just
piping and everything else.
because one of the things Peter Martian, one of our commissioners, has brought up is exactly what is the plan, if you could go a little further on what this is going to do for the building. And Peter is involved. He's a fire chief in the Winchester Center facility. He's been involved with the building committees on various projects. He's very knowledgeable. He's got a lot of background with planning. And part of our process here, we're a planning and zoning commission. And he raised the issue, I think, last time 2 weeks ago about emergency facility capability for this building. So Peter, why don't you get into the mix with regards to what your concerns are and what your thoughts are with regards to that?
The fire marshal, who is also the emergency management director for the town of Winchester, has reached out to me a couple of times. Latest was today with his concerns of is there going to be an emergency generator for this building and exactly what it will power. The problem that the town of Winchester has in the city of Winston is a emergency shelter for people during power outages. Presently, they have a small senior center with an emergency generator that houses, I'm not sure how many now, but it's not very large. And the only other facility we have is up in Winchester Center, which is our firehouse, and a Grange Hall that'll house another approximately 100 people. In a large scale incident that may last some time, basically people have to be bused to Torrington to their middle school to a regional shelter or drive there themselves. And what he's looking for is a large enough generator to power part of the school, approximately a third of the school, which would be the area where the kitchen is. And there's adult restrooms in that area. but the kitchen, the cafeteria, and the classrooms coming down towards the main entryway, that section there. That's what he's looking to see have done at some point. Then that could be designated as an emergency shelter for the downtown area.
So I guess the question is, the proposed generator that's planning, I presume that it's a hard part of the project. What will it in fact power what Peter has just described?
Well, what I can offer is that it's sized appropriately for very minimal operations, meaning it's sized for heating and primarily heating to avoid frozen pipes in the winter storms, things like that, power outages during the winter. It's sized for the kitchen that's there. So the refrigerators in the kitchen, so you don't have spoiled food and things like that in the commercial kitchen application. Emergency system, the fire alarm system, emergency lighting, their emergency life safety equipment is on that generator. So it really is sized for the life safety equipment, the emergency heating, and kitchen use. Aside from that, it's not sized for, well, certainly is not sized for the entire building, only these limited systems. And it, well, and I'll let Melanie speak to the needs of the school district. We didn't study the building in terms of a storm shelter or an emergency shelter. That would be a study where we'd have to bring in structural engineers because the structure would have to be certified for a shelter because it was originally designed as a school and that's what we're using it as. So there would be structural implications, and the size of the generator would be significantly larger than what we're proposing for the project, and more costly, of course. And the circuitry throughout the building would be the same. The school facilities unit, the reimbursement that we're seeking from the state, I don't believe would cover the cost of the storm or emergency shelter operations. So that additional cost to upgrade these systems to make the building adequate or meet the emergency shelter requirements would probably be funded by the town in that case, not by the state.
Okay.
So, but it's a good conversation, and it's one that we haven't had.
Just the only, basically what you've said for what you're running the generator off of, the only additional items would be needed for that 1/3 of the building would be lighting, so that you would have lighting there because you have city water, city sewer. You already have heat, you have emergency lighting and the alarm systems.
And general power, there's very little power on it aside from just the systems.
Correct, but
Yeah.
all you'd have, the only additional item needed to be run for the 1/3 of the building, not the whole building, would be
Okay.
lighting, and I assume you're using LED lighting throughout the building.
Oh, yeah. We're reusing the lighting that's just been redone at the school by the utility.
One of the things that I also think we can't designate just a portion of the building, is my understanding, with emergency shelter use. You have to designate the entire facility, is my understanding. The other thing that they require is showers and toilet fixtures that are, there's a whole bunch of stuff from the state's perspective when you use a school building for that. They think we might be getting caught up in the weeds between what a certified shelter is versus I need to have access to a building just for usage.
Sure.
If I can interrupt, based on conversations with the fire marshal, who's the emergency management director, showers are not a requirement, and the Red Cross can designate parts of a building to be used as an emergency shelter, and they will come in and inspect it and do that. That's what I have been told by him.
I would think that that's a conversation that our emergency management director needs to bring up with our town manager, because under the scope of this job, we can't add that into the scope because it's not going to be covered under our state grant. So that would definitely be something that I think, the town manager and the Board of Selectmen would need to decide if that's an investment that they want to make from the town's perspective.
I think, personally, I think if it's not done now, it'll never be done because, nothing has been done in this town after the fact, so.
But to that point, Peter, and on this, I think it certainly warrants, recognition in our evaluation as a planning board as well as a planning and zoning. I don't think we can mandate it as a strict requirement, but it certainly should be. Somebody should be looking at this to add if it requires a small additional investment to be able to carry lighting in the circuitry that's covered in this. Now's the
I
time
agree.
to do it. So, all right,
Yes.
fine. Well, thank you.
More-
Thanks,
much-
Melanie, for your
to do-
input on it.
Much more costly to do it later than
Oh,
now.
absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Because one of the things that Peter had brought up too is if there's a trade-off in some dollar investment in the interior, the large tree landscaping in the interior parking area, even though I like to see landscaping on each of the projects, and I think we all do, not just me. If there's a trade-off where an investment could be made in something like this that would support a portion of the building for, as you said, Melanie, it can't be a full-fledged building designation, but if there could be a portion of it that could be utilized to supplement the senior center and whatever could be done at town hall, which I guess is limited because of the elevator isn't involved in the system, that maybe that consideration as a trade-off could be made and continue to install all the plantings and so forth that are associated with the with the new stream that's opened up to the once the building is taken down, and anything that's visible from Spencer, from Hollibird, and those hall areas. So I think if there has to be some kind of a contribution to the dollar mix, maybe that you could find it there. And I think
The difference is, though, even though, let's just say we cut a portion of the budget out
sure,
to increase the size of the generator.
Yeah.
Our spec that we need to meet with the state is what the generator is at right now.
sure,
If we're increasing the load of the generator to meet the shelter needs, if you will,
yeah,
then that portion is not going to be covered by school construction. We can't swap out that because we're currently meeting the spec at the state level.
okay,
Anything above that spec that is kind of driven, if you will, by the town would need to be an investment financially that the town would.
okay. I understand that. I'm glad it's good you're on board so we can hear what the different implications are when we talk about options and so forth. But it doesn't mean that our conversation here with the commission and you folks, that you can't raise those issues and see if we can get funding to take care of something when something's going on. Because we don't do this often in this community or any community.
If the commission wishes, as part of this, I can speak with the town manager and Steve Williams to be able to see if that is an investment that the town would like us to research further.
Okay, and I think that from our commission, we can also address our concern about it to, as a planning agency that, it's an opportunity that we don't often have. Good, thank you. And Peter, thank you for your research on it and your knowledge of the background of this. It helps considerably. Okay, so we've gone through the decibel level. We've got the you were going to show us from the standpoint of that the refuse enclosure. If you have some, oh, here you go. Beautiful.
Okay, this was one of my recent projects, and unfortunately, the owner elected to use the galvanized fencing here.
Okay.
So obviously that kind of makes it stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
But with those hedge links, you can see that the vertical piece that's woven down in the chain link fence. So even though this fence fabric is galvanized, you can't even see the fence.
Oh, you're right. The slats
The only thing-
definitely don't hide it, but that does. So you could do but you could put the posts and the framing and so forth in a green.
That is our standard detail. That's the detail that's on the plan, is that it has the green vinyl coated fencing. And you can see in this, picture from the manufacturer, you can kind of see the green outline of the fence here, but that's, green fencing, green vinyl coated fencing. So that's the ideal. And we think that it, is more attractive, more opaque than the metal slatting. It's a little bit more durable, and it's not necessarily going to get dinged or dented if the snow, if the plow puts some snow up against it. It's pretty resilient. It's basically an artificial, the limbs from an artificial Christmas tree.
Sure. Oh,
so
that's
we believe it works very well.
I've not seen that, but it's definitely accomplishes the hiding what's behind it. So
yeah.
Everybody react. Peter, let's start from you. What are your thoughts?
Yes, no, it looks nice. I was just wondering what the life expectancy was of that product.
I think it still has a 10-year warranty on it.
10-year warranty, so it's got a good life expectancy. No, it looks very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Arthur?
Yeah, no, it looks good.
Okay. Will?
Fine with me.
Okay. And John? John still on board? Okay, well, it looks good to me. I think, again, eliminating the galvanized look, it'll be an improvement. Okay, anything else from the applicant and your staff? And
I believe that I believe we've presented everything that you've asked us to look into and incorporated it into the plans as required. With the exception of those few items that we discussed about the underground piping that we're waiting on Public Works, but we will include that if anything comes up, and we'll certainly provide a memo with those findings. So I think we're there.
I think you've done a nice job on pursuing all the details we've raised. I appreciate it. Anybody else from the commission have anything, any comments?
I was having some trouble with my speaker. I thought it looked excellent.
Okay, good, John. Thank you.
My microphone, sorry.
All right. Okay, do we have any people other than who've already participated that Pam, that would like to comment or question?
No, I'm fine.
I see one individual. Everyone has the ability to unmute themselves.
Okay,
So,
who do we have then?
This is Chris. No comment.
okay, that was the only one I was unsure of.
Okay, Chris, what's your last name?
Mitchell?
Okay, you're off on Spencer.
No, I'm with a engineering firm.
Oh, you are.
Interested in the project.
Because we had somebody from Spencer Street that had participated in our last public hearing. So do we have everybody that's accounted for as far as the public input and questions, Pam?
Yeah, I think you're all set. I would only make a recommendation that you discuss the conditions in the public hearing so that if any, if any.
Sure, that's fine. All right, let me bring up what we've talked about previously, and that is the possibility of conditions on the which we're going to make a positive recommendation here for approval. But one of them is the which already Don has talked about, shielding of the RTUs, what the architect has talked about. And what Don has talked about is the final certification of that stormwater management design and using the existing pipe, which is ongoing. So that'd be a condition. And then we had a discussion on that short strip of road that comes off of Williams, that there's a residence that has a driveway that comes out there that we would require a do not block driveway sign be installed there. So it's only obviously when the bus traffic comes in on the, second couple times during the day, that would have an impact. The other thing that I would suggest is to the commission is that in the past, there's been a 1-year landscape maintenance bond requirement on the landscaping installation, so that if something happens during that course of the year, it gets replaced. And then the other thing is really not in my mind, is not something that we have to make a hard requirement for, but at least have the design team and look to the town manager and so forth to look at the possibility of upgrading that generator system for at least a portion of the building to be used as a shelter, as part of the facilities available to the community. But those are the things that we've talked about. And if there's anybody else on the commission that has some other issues that they would like to bring up, please do it now, and then we can move on from the public hearing.
What about George?
Yes.
Over the years, the trees that are leaning into the roof section, are those going to be cut and taken down? I just thought about those.
Well, that's something that the school district will have to do to maintain. And I know what you're saying. I've built a lot of buildings in the last 30 years, and you put a lot of plantings and then they don't maintain them, and then the building gets impacted by the trees and so forth associated with the growth around the building. So it's important.
Mr. Melcher, are you talking about the trees that are on that property line that's kind of tight back in that flood zone area of the building? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, Melanie.
So the idea, what came out of ZBA last week was regarding some fencing that's going to be installed along there as part of our buffer.
Yep.
So I would imagine that with the inclusion of a new roof on that school building and then the erecting of a new fence, that a lot of those trees are going to need either some maintenance or potential removal, just to ensure that, the roof isn't getting clogged, leaves aren't getting up there, and that none of them are hazards to the property or surrounding properties.
Okay.
Yeah, because Art has been involved with some remedial activity out there years past, so he's familiar with the site completely. Okay, anybody else on the commission have any other issues that might come up during our deliberation? Okay, hearing none. If we have nothing else from the applicant, if we have nothing else from the public, then I'll if we have no other participation, we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close it, George.
All right, Art, and the second from Peter?
Yes.
Okay, from Peter. All right. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion has passed. And we'll move on to number 6, which is new business, PZC number 20-20. I'm sorry. New business is PZC number 20-26, CGS 824. Location parcel between Highview Drive and South Road, map 043, block 154, lot 019x34. Applicant Winchester Land Trust, owner Town of Winchester. Proposal CGS 824, referral request to donate vacant property between Highview Drive and South Road. This was
George,
a,
are you taking new business ahead of old business?
oh, I'm
I-
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Step back. Thanks, Pam.
Mhm.
That's what happens when it gets dark too early. We're getting into the fall.
I hear.
They haven't even changed the
Moving
clock.
along too far. All right, I'm sorry. Old business. Thank you, Pam. PZC 20-23 special permit, location 15 Hinsdale Avenue, Winchester Public Schools. Owner Town of Winchester, proposal Hinsdale School renovation and new construction, including restoration and daylighting of the Gilbert Home Brook that flows in a culvert under a portion of the school. I have a draft motion with regards to this application, and I'm gonna, since I have it in front of me, I'm gonna read it, and then we can add it or take away as we deem necessary. My motion is to approve application number 20-23, special permit applicant Winchester Public Schools, owner Town of Winchester, location 115 Hinsdale Avenue. Proposal Hinsdale School renovation and new construction, including restoration and daylighting of the Gilbert Home Brook and the flows in a culvert under the portion of the school. 1, in evaluating this application, the Planning and Zoning Commission has relied upon information provided by the applicant, and if such information subsequently proves to be false, deceptive, incomplete, and or inaccurate, this permit shall be modified, suspended, or revoked. 2, this application is consistent with the town's plan of conservation and development. 3, this application meets the criteria and standards of 3.j, common regulations, special permits / special exceptions. 4, engineer Donald Smith to provide certification that prior to final stormwater management design, existing pipe to be inspected to confirm its ability to handle the projected stormwater flow. 5, project to include shielding of the RTUs, the rooftop units. 6, due to the planned staging of school buses along the short drive coming off of Williams Avenue, the installation of a sign indicating do not block driveway at the residence fronting on that drive access be installed. 7, 1-year landscape passbook maintenance bond be submitted to the town. That is all the conditions I have, other than the suggestion about the
Emergency shelter.
emergency, yeah, the generator, emergency generator be evaluated for the potential of using a portion of the building for emergency shelter under our planning responsibilities.
I'll second that motion.
Just for clarification, I was going through and I had forgotten to include the plans and the drawings. You generally like to reference the
Yes,
drawing.
we do, Pam. Thank you.
And then just a dollar figure on that passbook account. Did you?
Well, that, because of the possibility of, well, what has been brought up is this project has to include certain things. So the landscape design team should come up with an estimate for what the landscape and the installation cost would be. That would establish, rather than us establishing an artificial number. So I would hope that
So do you want to add in as determined by an estimate prepared by a
By the-
percentage of that estimate, or?
well, what my experience in my building
Sure.
career has been, if you had 100% failure, which is very unlikely, but that typically what's been acceptable is the material cost would, for the 100% replacement, and that would cover any kind of labor installation, because I'm sure it wouldn't be 100% replacement, but that would be my take on it.
Material cost at 100% as determined by the
By
landscape.
the landscape design team, yes. And if you could enumerate the plans
Sure.
the current
Yes,
submittal?
approval is based on plans entitled Town of Winchester, Mary P. Hinsdale School, 15 Hinsdale Avenue, Winston, Connecticut, as prepared by Silver Petroselli and Associates and Donald W. Smith Jr. P.E. dated July 24th, 20. I'm sorry, dated June 30th, 20 is the earliest, and revised through 9/17/20. Sheets C400, C401, C402, C403, C404, and C405.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. We definitely like to include all that. So it's in the project notes. And Peter, you had a second on it, did you say?
I second your motion.
Any further discussion from the commissioners? All in favor? All in favor? Okay. And John, have you still on board?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
just
you-
raise your
You
hand.
had your hand up.
Yeah, I had it up.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't see you. All right, well, thank you. We've got the approval with the conditions. And we look forward to that thing going forward. I guess the legislature is supposed to be acting shortly as far as the commitment from the state. Good.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. It's been a pleasure, and yes, with a little bit of help from the legislature, we'll be under construction this summer.
Yeah, well, thanks for your professionalism and your following through on all the small details that we've asked for. I appreciate it. And Melanie, thank you for your consistent participation and input.
Just want to say thank you guys on behalf of our school system, our Board of Ed, and the Hinsdale School Renovation Committee. Appreciate all the time and energy you guys put into this. Really nice job, and thank you for being so thorough.
Well, we're excited. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, I guess I'll get to number 6 now. Sorry for getting that out of order. 6 is new business, PZC number 20-26, CGS 8-24, location of parcel between Highview Drive and South Road, mapped 043, block 154, lot 019, X34. Applicant Winchester Land Trust, owner Town of Winchester, proposal CGS 824 referral, request to donate vacant property between Highview Drive and South Road. Later this afternoon, Pam had one of the things, this was brought up at our last meeting, and Will had brought up the notes on the existing map, which is, I guess, 50 years old, on the subdivision plan, and it said 6.5 acres for public use. And so we were trying to determine between the last meeting and this, if there was any further information with regard to what public use is. And Pam did look into this and didn't find any other. It looks like this subdivision must have predated anything that we had with regards to, this is typically a property that might be left in a open space subdivision and set aside. It looks like what they were, and I'm just trying to read between the lines, trying to keep the lots in a pretty consistent size for pricing and so forth. And this was left out and then held. Obviously, it's landlocked. And this proposal, I talked to Jen Perga from the Land Trust this evening, actually, and they have walked this property because a lot of times this property or this type of situation, property owners adjacent to it would have started to kind of encroach on it. And she said they have in fact walked the boundary lines and there hasn't been that kind of situation. And the Land Trust would have no intention of building trails into this area, which would bring more public access back in there, which to me would compromise the property owner's interpretation of property that was just held for public access, which is the way it's described. So that's what she looks at. The South Road property, which the land trust has, it would become more of a advantage to have additional property for the wildlife, for wildlife corridors and so forth, and for this to remain in a natural state. So that's what the land trust intention for use of this is. It's just an incorporation into their adjoining property. It'll be more for wildlife corridor. So let's go through the commission. Will, you had brought a question up about it. Do you have any further, concerns?
Lack of anything written on the map other than for public use kind of eases me and my concerns I had before that there was something else represented here, and it's obviously not.
Okay.
So I'm good with it.
Okay, fine. Peter?
No, I think it's a great use for it, so.
Okay. Arthur?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. My only concern was that if someone had a right of way through one of those lots that adjoin it.
Yeah.
Like up at the lake, people, there's right of ways that go down to the lake that are through people's yards.
Yeah, yeah.
And, people can go down through the people's yards and then they flip out and, you're on my property and.
Oh, I know it.
No, they're not. They have right of ways.
Yeah. Well, this is obviously a landlocked piece. Just my years in real estate since I kind of grew up in this business. This looks like the developer was just trying to make more standardized lots, and this just kind of like the piece that got forgotten in order to create that. And
right.
Typically we had that one piece. There was a big property that was designated as an open space subdivision, and there's some more specifics with regards to the use of the open space. And this appears to not have any of that language. It was just kind of an out parcel, and then it was deeded to the town, and the town hasn't done anything with it.
Right.
So, John, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, I think it's just fine.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, I'll make a motion to make a positive recommendation to the Board of Selectmen for this CGS 824 referral, and it's a positive recommendation for them. So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Peter's motion is seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up, Peter, because, or Will, because that's, it's good to iron out anything that we can do before we make those things go on. Okay, the next item is 7, approval of minutes, August 24th, 2020.
And I believe that's wrong. The minutes that you should be approving are the September 14th.
September 14th, yes, you're right. I've got those in front of me. Yep. It'll be September 14th meeting, which was another Zoom meeting. I think the only two people that weren't there were, Craig wasn't there.
Yeah.
Okay, so could we have a motion to approve, or the only thing I would say.
Right, you saw about the natural resource inventory.
Yeah, natural resource. I talked to Jen Perga, and she has not completed it, but it is in the works, whether relative to the POCD. So that would need to be corrected.
Yep.
But if not, then if we could have a motion to approve with that change.
Yeah.
Okay. Peter, is that what you just said?
Mhm.
And second, do you have somebody who's
Second.
Art? Okay. All in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, communications, Pam?
I don't have, yes, I do. I can do it separately, but there are a couple of you who need to communicate to Lori your intention to continue serving.
Oh, okay. Who's up?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I had it, sorry.
Right, we don't.
I'll let you know. I'll
Why
find
don't
it.
you just email
I
us
was on
a
that list. I
reminder?
called this morning.
You were, Will?
Yeah, I was on it and I called this morning.
Okay,
Okay, great. All right, well, we can take care of that.
sure.
Hopefully everybody's going to, rejoin and keep us going here. Any other communications, Pam?
No.
No. And how about staff report?
We are making progress on our zoning enforcement on our chickens, so that's good. We have a meeting on Wednesday morning with a new restaurant owner who plans to occupy Louis Diner.
Oh, okay, good.
And then I don't know if we talked about it at the last meeting that KFC is transferred. So, but I haven't had any recent inquiry on the permitting process for that building.
Okay, I saw the sign was down, but
Yeah.
the other thing though, when you have these staff meetings, if you could bring that up about the emergency shelter and possibility of interjecting some activity with regards to the building committee on Hinsdale, that'll be helpful.
Right.
Because as Peter brought up, you've got switch gear that's got to go in, and if they change the size of this
Right.
generator, it might not be a huge expense. And hopefully we could get that covered while we don't have
Right.
many opportunities like this.
Be smart.
Okay, and Peter, thank you for doing the background on that. That very important. Peter's got a project going on with the Winchester Volunteer Fire Department, which is unbelievable how successful you've been up there, Peter, with everybody and doing what you do. But they've got a generator process that's going on and a redo of it, and they're not inexpensive, but I'll tell you what, the investment is well worth it. Okay, other business, POCD. Pam, I had sent you the comments from commissioners that had participated in following it up. Let's just look at who we had, because everybody responded. I didn't get anything in writing from Craig, although he did talk to me about what he had in mind. And so if you could possibly send what I sent you out to each of the commissioners, because here's our situation, folks. We had passed 10 years ago, January, the last POCD. And I'm sure with this virus thing, we could probably get an extension, but I don't think we've got so much to do here that would require a really extensive effort in order to not get this thing approved in January. That's my opinion, but so if you could, Pam, when you have an opportunity, send out what I sent you from everybody. Craig told me verbally what he had it in, and I'll just talk to him. He's got a little preoccupation with this medical thing. So, and then if everybody could think about that, because what would have to happen is we'd have to have a public hearing no later than our first meeting in January if we were going to comply with this, because we got to have the public hearing. If we're satisfied with it, we could act on it the night of the public hearing, and then we'd be in compliance with the 10-year renewal. If we don't want to do that, we feel there's more to do than that, then what we might want to do is just give a renewal of the existing, as a temporary measure. And then when we can really get in person, and if we have some more in-depth interest in changing any of these sections, then we could start that in January, when hopefully we'll be back to be able to meet in person. So what are your thoughts? Will, what do you think?
It would be easier, I think, to discuss everything in person.
Yeah.
If you were to renew what we have, that's only a temporary renewal.
Well, what the way the legislation is when you put something in place, you have the opportunity anytime during that 10-year period of revising and reevaluating. But it does require, public hearing, and it does require notification, is my understanding, my recollection, to the COG and could be the adjoining the towns. I'm not sure, Pam, but anyways, that's what would be required. Where if we just did a temporary, just renew it so that we're in compliance with the state law, so that if there's a grant or something, it can't be held back from the state to our community because we don't have a current POCD. That's the only drawback that I could see. And we worked on this 10 years ago. So those are the two options as far as I can see. We have time. I mean, we've got, I look at it, Peter did an update on, the sections that he was involved with, section 2 and section 3. A lot of that is population stuff. We can get that out of the COG, so I don't think that's a big deal. The natural resource inventory needs to be updated. I've got the report from the town hall, so we've got that list. So that would be incorporated in the natural resource inventory. I did section 5, which has the planning areas, which was the Lakes District, Northern and Eastern Winchester, downtown, high density downtown neighborhoods and Route 800 corridor. And then section 5 was the green print for Winchester, which to me, it still has its relevance still. So I didn't see any changes in those districts, but that's my opinion. So that's something we would talk about. So if Pam sends these things out to everybody that we have, John did a report, Peter did a report, and Jerry did a report. So if all those things could be sent out, then maybe our first meeting in October, we could readdress this and see which way we want to proceed. And I can talk to Jen again. I talked with her this evening, and just to see if we can get the folks that are involved with the Conservation Commission to update that list, which they have done a nice job on it previously. It's just updating it because there is more conserved property currently than what we had then. And the town owns more property than we had then.
Right.
So, so if that's okay, we'll do that. Art, what's your thought?
No, that's fine.
Okay, all right. Peter?
Yeah, no, I think if we can move forward with it, it'd be good and get it done and over with. It'll be one less thing on our plate.
Okay. John, your feeling on it?
I think it's perfect that we review it and go from there. I think
Okay.
I'm on board with getting it done too.
Okay, that's my preference as well. Because then anytime after that, if we have something that comes up that really requires an adjustment, we can go ahead and have the discussions and get public input, and then we can get it when we can actually sit down in public and face to face. I think we get a lot more done in those meetings. Not that these have been actually pretty effective, thanks to Pam being able to coordinate it and get our plans displayed and so forth. Thank you, Pam. That really makes it workable. Okay, short-term rentals, again, we postponed that until we get personal involvement in the town hall. When we bring the subject up, we get people that are very interested in it. So without an objection to that, we'll continue that on our agenda to keep reminding us. Any other issues that we haven't talked about that you'd like to raise?
None here.
Okay. All right, so we could motion for adjournment then.
So move.
Okay, second by
Second.
Will. Okay, all in favor?
Yep.
Very good. Thanks for everybody's work on this, and the homework that goes in between the two meetings is very important. And like I said, I mentioned it earlier, I don't know if everybody was on, but Craig Sandon's back in at UConn and Farmington.
Again?